yesterday was the biggest attack since the invasion, even bigger than.
That's kind of spooky. Rip. Oh my God. Like looking at the Russian military, I'm like, damn. Like how many people are just afraid to say that, bro, shit is fucked.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Don't spam hummus, guys. I'm not dead.
Yeah, well.
I agree with your community that if I die, they will spam hummus. Sorry.
Oh yeah, don't worry. No hummus spam yet.
Oh, don't it up. So yeah, it's been a day. Everyone messaged me from DDG. I'm not dead. I'm okay. The light can went out any moment. So if if it went out, then it's the electricity blackout again. Yeah. So you have been watching some pretty important stuff. I couldn't call me back. Was learning how to win a game.
It's not just a game. It's Factorio. Okay, chill.
The
all right.
Game. Okay, the game.
Yeah.
Yes, very important.
An important game. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, what's up? What do you want to chat with us about today?
Well, mostly I wanted to pretty much tell everyone I'm not dead after yesterday's 100 missiles. Cool stuff was going on. And yeah, electricity is totally fucked in Ukraine, more than it was, so schedules don't work anymore. Pretty much 14 hours today have no light, and yesterday as well. So yeah, sucks, I guess. And also this Polish thing was interesting. If you know what your opinion on that is, basically. So, I think, right, that the missile supposedly was like, and everyone was going on about World War III, like Article 5 shit. So I posted, I jumped the gun a little bit, and I posted a tweet that said that basically Russian missile that was aiming for Western Ukraine, Lviv, hit the Polish, pretty much, near the border of Ukraine. So I was like 90% sure that this is what happened, because they missed quite a lot. And oftentimes they missed their target by like 30, 40 kilometers. I don't know, it's like in your measurements how like far that is. But this like little village, little town that they hit is very close to the border, and they had 6 strikes on Lviv yesterday. So I was pretty sure that it just accidentally like passed their target. And yeah, so I posted this, and like a lot of vatniks and tankies like came for me saying that I'm like, so it was a Ukraine conspiracy theory that we tried to start World War III. And, turns out it apparently was our missile. At least that's what United States, I think, already stated. And I'm like, there has been an investigation, which I'm totally cool with. And apparently it was our anti-air missile that tried to hit Russian one that was flying, and it kind of like malfunctioned, and it's, hit Poland.
Yeah.
And 2 people died. So very kind of upsetting, obviously, that people died. And yeah, but I just don't understand why tankies all over the place are like celebrating and like dancing and saying that this is some kind of a huge whoopsie moment for Ukraine. And yeah, so it's very strange. I don't understand. In my opinion, it's still Russia's fault, obviously. They are like launching 100 rockets, 100 missiles at us yesterday. Of course, if you launch rockets so close to Poland, like Lviv is very close to Poland already, so it might end up somehow up Poland and other neighboring countries as well. So we have like bits of missiles dropped in Moldova already. Nobody talked about that for some reason, maybe because nobody cares about Moldova. But it's not like it's entirely the first time. So yeah, I was not lying. I mistaken. I was like too fast with my judgment, and then when it came up, I take it back, I guess.
Sure.
It was not a Russian missile aiming for Lviv. It was apparently our anti-air missile that just malfunctioned. And, still the fact remains that you shouldn't be probably launching 100 missiles at a country, and then people will not die,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, people are always going to be looking for any way to criticize the U.S. or the Ukrainian involvement here. So any mistakes are going to be like, very amplified, right?
Yeah. So basically, you are not blaming Ukraine for wanting to start a World War III. It's your take, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, kind of sucks that everything is just people just throw in our faces basically all the time. So Russia could do the most horrid shit on earth and they would be like, oh, okay, it's fine. They're protecting themselves. But then Ukraine literally protects itself from 1,000 missiles launched our way, and we are somehow, like the baddie here. Just confusing to me. Yeah. But
Yeah.
of course, it's like very, very sad that those people, died. And, also that, and of course that people are saying like conspiracy theorists came out in both sides. So some people said that this was some great Russian Russian master plan to provoke NATO. Some said it was Ukraine's like plans to provoke NATO for something. I think it's all just dumb basically, because it was an accident either way. Because I just don't see why Russians would want to provoke NATO countries, but then they are already losing to us, which is very ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
I mean, if Russia
whatever.
had done it, like, it would have obviously been an accident. And if Ukraine had done it,
Yes.
it's obviously an accident, right? Yeah, I think any reasonable
That's
person should have
exactly
had
what I
it.
said.
Yeah.
And people were like, why do you think it's obvious? Like, even like guys from your community, they were like blaming Russia basically, not Ukraine, but they were like, it's just like I think you all need to like escape the delusion that Russia is some mastermind strategist. I think they showed that they're like mostly just f***ing up all the way. So if you don't need to see malice when there is this like straight up stupidity, and their missiles have been, it's known that they f*** up. Like
Sure.
they miss locations all the time, so why shouldn't they miss? And yesterday was the biggest attack since the invasion, even bigger than.
That's kind of spooky. Rip. Well. The speed of light was quicker than the speed of our internet going out. Whoa, hello?
Hey, lights went out.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I noticed,
Can you
yeah.
do something? Yeah, well, that was a long conversation.
Wait, how are you contacting me now if your lights are out?
I have a little bit of mobile phone internet still. It will be here like for 10 minutes maybe, and then it's all gone.
Okay.
So
Do you want to...
Yeah.
Yeah, are there any final... I don't want to like use up all of your internet if you're... for the mod.
I'm a bit pissed right now, not gonna lie. Yeah, well, yeah, thanks, great convo. In hell, I hate this, all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I also wanted to mope about a bit about my father's house burning up, but
Yeah, I think we saw the pictures that you posted on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty...
I went to the how do you say it in English? Basically, to the person, notarius we call it. I don't know how to say it in English. It's like a person who does all those documentations when you inherit shit, like paperwork.
Yeah.
So we went to the guy and we was like trying to establish like to make us the inheritors of this pile of dust that my father's house is. And we did the paperwork, we like paid money for that, and now it's even a bigger pile of dust.
Yeah.
What on
yeah,
earth?
that sucks. Not cool. Not good. Were there any other... Was it just like you said, it was an electrical fire inside the house?
Yeah. Basically, there was like no one there, so nobody could do anything. And when the neighbors noted it, they called the services. But it was exactly the day yesterday when a total blackout was in Kharkiv. So basically, nobody came fast enough because you couldn't call anyone. Emergency services did not work. Like navigation did not work. Mobile connection did not work. Lights were off. You couldn't even like make a phone call.
Yeah.
So basically, they did not come fast enough.
Oh, actually, wait. Just question: when all of like
Sorry?
when all the landlines, like the phones and stuff, are down, can you make cell phone calls, or are those usually down too?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Your thing just cut out when you answered me there. Well, hello.
There's a
Hey, I got a question for you with the with what's going on with the missile strikes. I watched, and it actually kind of ties into some of Destiny's current arcs as well, because Lex Friedman. I'm now on a Lex Friedman kick. I'd never heard of this guy. He did a great interview with Destiny and Ben Shapiro, and then he did one before both of them with Fiona Hill, and I know you're pretty familiar with her. And she's in that interview.
I saw some of it. I saw some clips of it actually.
It's really, really good. Really good. You should check it out in its entirety. But she still refers to, and Fiona Hill for Chad, you know, she was a Russian and like Ukrainian European expert for the National Security Council, right, Dylan? Mm-hmm. And then she testified against President Trump in 2019 over that Ukrainian quid pro quo thing. That's how she came to the forefront of American politics or whatever. But anyway, so she's out of office now, and she's working at the Brookings Institution, but she's still an expert in all this stuff. In the interview with Friedman, she referred to Putin still as a rational actor. She says, you know, a lot of people say he's not. I still think he is. And I know you had that conversation with the Vanguard, Dylan, not too long ago. I listened to it on a car ride. Do you still consider Putin a rational actor, or are you on the fence?
Absolutely. He's put himself in a irrational position. So the reason I believe Putin's a rational actor, because I think he's politically intelligent. I think that everything that he's done makes sense if you understand where he's getting his information from. I don't think the decision to invade Ukraine was smart. But I think this was because he was working with incomplete information. If you listen to how people talked about the Ukrainian invasion at the start of it on February 24th, the whole world thought Ukraine would collapse in like a microsecond.
Yep, 2 weeks.
It'd be a week and it would be over, and then Russia, and then there would be strong sanctions in response, but the West would once again let Putin do whatever he really wanted to do, outside of maybe a few economic repercussions. The reason they thought that, in my opinion, is I think they really underestimated, and I think this is a failure of the FSB, I think this is a failure of Putin's administration, and the people handing Putin intelligence. I think they really failed to estimate exactly how strong the will to fight was in Ukraine, that Zelensky's government would stay there and they wouldn't flee. They did try to assassinate him multiple times, though. And I think they extremely overestimated how competent their military was, and underestimated how much corruption had whittled them down. But this was also the same mistake made by like Western intelligence agencies. And I think that largely, when it comes to the Western, when the West made that mistake, I think it was largely due to a lack of human intelligence. We have a lot of technical intelligence when it comes to satellites and like hacking equipment.
The over-the-horizon capability
that,
that people...
Shit didn't go crazy after the fucking abortion shit that happened. Jesus.
What?
Okay. That's probably...
Okay, he's just fucking why did people even fucking... This motherfucker, man. Why is he fucking doing this shit? What a dumb fucker. Ain't those people crazy? Ain't this dumb shit? Big ass motherfucker, man. Fucking meth Andy. What do you think of this like, man? Is he banned? Jesus Christ. I'm gonna go fucking...
1.5 million winter uniforms just disappearing from Russian stockpiles. This is the type of stuff that I don't think the Russians prepared for or understood how much corruption had whittled down the military. And the West didn't understand it either. And I think that's why he made such an irrational decision, is because he was working with incorrect information.
I think it's a little bit sad because like my Western bias about the show a lot here. But like when you look at movies about anything having to do with America, it's always like, the only reason why our troops got captured is because Senator Randall had a deal with the enemy country and some corporation was rigging everything, and these brave soldiers are fighting against the military-industrial complex. Or like that's like every single plot line. But the reality is for the United States, like the way our military, our State Department, everybody, the way the interactions are really complicated. Foreign affairs are really complicated. But then when you look at movies about like Eastern issues, namely like Russia, it's always like, oh, the party members lied so that they wouldn't get in trouble, and oh yes, everybody lied because they want to keep getting their paychecks and they don't want to bring any issues up and rustle any feathers. But it seems like that's actually the case. Like, that's a pretty accurate accounting for. Like, did you ever see the Chernobyl miniseries?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, there was a lot of that in there, and it almost felt like propaganda. But like, oh my God, like looking at the Russian military, I'm like, damn, like how many people are just afraid to say that, bro, shit is fucked. Like, Jesus.
Well, the thing is, it's a culture.
Yeah,
in Russia,
yeah, exactly.
Right? The problem is that people think that, like, and I remember listening to Dave Rubin and Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro talk about the Russian military leading up into this. They didn't really, not about this war, but just about them generally, when they were talking about, the military ads Russia would put out, and they're like super strong, they're manly, and then they would intersplice that with an American military ad. Oh, we love trans soldiers and we want a diverse military. People will talk about like, wow, we're gonna get our clocked clean in a war. We're gonna get smashed because Russians fight for patriotism and the love of country. But the truth is, in Russia, there's a culture of corruption in the military. Because let's say that you're one of the guys who sells like equipment out of the back of your truck, which a lot of these people who work at the supply hubs do. They basically just fill up the back of their truck, go to a local like gang or whatever, whoever wants to buy it, and they'll just sell it out of it. That's how they like lost 1.5 million winter uniforms, where they're gonna have soldiers all across Ukraine in the middle of the winter freezing to death. That's ultimately gonna happen because of that mistake. But the reason why that happens is because these people are paid terribly and they don't have a lot of opportunities for career advancement once you're like the commander of like one of these small little supply hubs. And so for them, they kind of see it as kind of like a perk of the job. And so let's say you're a Russian who really cares about Russia. You got in the military because you believe in Russia. You believe in the historical legacy of the Kievan Rus. And you don't want to engage in corruption because you love your country and you don't want to steal from it. Other people are going to look at you as suspect, not because you're going to rat them out. Even if you don't rat them out, that doesn't matter. By you not participating in the system of corruption, they see you as suspect and a threat to their bottom dollar, and they'll make sure to get rid of you. Not kill you, but make you lose your position or be kicked out of like this specific oblast, kick you out into another one, try to move you to a different place in the chain of command. They want to protect their bottom dollar, and a lot of people underestimated how corrupt the Russian military was, and it still is insanely corrupt. A lot of the equipment, honestly, that got stolen, that soldiers were supposed to be given at the start of the war or now during mobilization, is being sold on like the Russian internet for like 10 to 20 times its original price, with like 20,000% increases.
That was one of the reasons in that. Did you see that? It's kind of gory, but did you see or no? You know about that sledgehammer video, right?
Yep. Yeah, I
part of the messaging of that was basically had to do with that like these soldiers are retreating and they're leaving our equipment and selling it online and shit. I think that was part of the messaging for that thing.
It was very, very bad video. But I mean, like, the thing is, the people who are paying the most for this is the average Russian soldier. I don't know if you've seen these videos. Did you see the video about the tampons by chance?
I think so. Just like the general like state of disarray for their supplies and shit. Yeah.
So the it's so bad for the Russian, the average Russian mobilized soldier at this point, that you don't get all of your equipment. You have to go out and buy your own equipment. This is a massive issue that even the Russian government has had to admit to some degree. And so there's this video of this local Russian commander talking to soldiers saying, you need to go out to stores and buy your own medical bags because we don't have one to provide it to you. And then the soldier responds, but ma'am, there's no medical bags anymore. There's no medical equipment. We can't get gauze. We can't get tourniquets. They're just all sold out in the local markets. And she says, well, what you can do is go to your local, the Russian equivalent of Rite Aid, and buy tampons. And if you get shot, you can take the tampon and plug it into the bullet wound, and it'll fill up with blood and stop the bleeding. That is completely not true, but this is what the Russian military has a result. It's no, Destiny.
As memey as it is,
true.
I think you, for emergency situations, I think you can use women products. I've heard of first aid responders sometimes in like dire situations. I'm not saying you literally stick a whole fucking tampon in your arm, but I think those products can actually like stop bleeding in emergency situations. No,
I mean, they call it KIA. Yeah, they call it KIA.
There is
an action.
The amount of damage that is, those things are not going to save a lot of lives. They might save one or two, but their effectiveness compared to like a tourniquet and the other type of medical equipment is like almost incomparable. They're not. I think because the thing is, if it sucked up enough blood to stop the bleeding, which is the intention of the tampon, it would kill women if they put it in their bodies.
Wait, what?
If it sucked up that much blood, yeah, it wouldn't be safe for women to put it in their bodies.
Wait, why not?
If it sucked up that much liquid, yes. Like the point of these is to suck up liquid. It's to stop
He's saying
the
it
bleeding.
would turn them into a withered husk.
Wait.
Just to hydrate them.
Like enough to stop the
Mummify.
bleeding. Yeah, it would mummify these women from their vagina.
What? Oh God. Yeah, but you didn't think about that, Destiny.
Yeah,
you
you
idiot.
didn't think about it. Either way, the main problem is that the Russian military just doesn't have the equipment to make up for these shortfalls. And so now the Russian people have to go out and buy the equipment that was meant for them anyway out of scalpers.
Wait, hold on.
And it's had a massive impact on morale.
Please don't let this be the beginning of a tampon arc.
No. Hey. He's saying that because they would suck up so much liquid, it would... Wait,
It would not actually kill them. You can't take, you cannot take medical equipment and shove it up into... Look,
Wait, no, I
okay?
agree. I'm just saying that, like, vaginas aren't always bleeding, right?
No, they're not always bleeding, but I would assume it would suck up other liquids as well, right?
Okay, true, it could. Okay. Gotcha, okay.
Okay.
All right,
thank
yeah,
you.
I just wanted to clarify that for Chuck.
Dylan's
That was
vagina theory has been affirmed.
All right, so speaking of crazy conspiracy theories, what about this idea? What about the idea that
What about it?
Some people in the Russian higher ups, maybe in the military or the oligarchs, that they're trying to destabilize Putin, like by taking advantage domestically of this crisis? Do you think there's any possibility that that's the case, Dylan? That given that he's the one who's effectively spearheading this invasion, it's not going well. Now there's a potential risk of Article 5. Do you think that anybody domestically would be interested, like any prominent Russians, some of the millionaires, billionaires, oligarchs, that they'd be interested in overthrowing him and replacing him with perhaps themselves or somebody else?
I think there's conversations happening, but there's none of it's happening in public. There's if somebody came out publicly and said we need to overthrow Putin, like obviously that person would immediately be dealt with. A lot of these oligarchs are like falling.
You mean they would have
windows.
one of those suspicious food poisoning spates?
One of those food poisonings, or they just collapsed during a run, or they just fell out of a 20-story window with 20 stab wounds. They accidentally stabbed themselves 20 times. But I think like
They live
the
in a
highest
first floor building. It's really remarkable.
The big thing I see people pointing to right now is Alexander Dugin's statement that kind of seemed like he was hinting at assassinating Putin. But Alexander Dugin has often like overemphasized the amount of influence he has. I do think
his
there's-
daughter died, right?
Yeah, Alexander Dugina. The last thing that went through her mind was her steering wheel when the car bomb exploded. Yeah, her.
Jesus.
But the thing is, he doesn't have that much influence really in Russian politics outside of like extremely Russian far right circles. He's mostly a huckster, if I'm being completely honest. So
Dugin is.
The question, yeah, Dugin. The question is, in private, what type of conversations are going on? I'm sure there are conversations going on in private about what do we do in a post-Putin Russia? What do we do if this doesn't go right? But I doubt, even now, there's enough enough, I says, discontent for them to make a public challenge. And so this type of thing would, I think, happen very quickly, and most of this talking would go on behind closed doors, so it's very hard to say. I'm almost positive, though, these conversations are going on, because these oligarchs don't like they're self-interested at the end of the day.
I'm almost terrified to Google this because I'm sure I'll get a visit from the FBI if that's the case. But like, do you know anything about like the Russian nuclear chain of command? Like, I know it came up during the conversation with the Vanguard, because the prevailing, complaint from a lot of people, especially on the left, is that, we're risking nuclear war to whatever extent. And couldn't Putin just issue a single directive and, nukes be fired? And you tried to make the case that there's a chain of command and multiple officers would have to be involved. And he would hesitate to give the order because you don't want to give an order that would be disobeyed. And that one has a good chance of being disobeyed. Is the chain of command to access the Russian nuclear arsenal, do we know if it's anything like what we supposedly know of the American chain of command, where, yeah, the president's the ultimate authority, Congress can't get involved and whatnot, but there are multiple officers involved down to the tactical level?
Yeah, I read a really good article about this. It's actually what convinced me. I'd have to go find you the article, and I could send you the specifics. I don't remember the name of every single person in the chain of command.
Cringe.
But it's not. I think some people believe that it's like a cartoon, that he like presses a button,
Right.
and then like the missile gets launched. Like it's like connected to like the command structure. Like
Yeah, it's like Destiny playing Factorio. or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, it's like a cartoon, but that's not how it works. He gives the command, and then it goes to one person, who then gives the order to another person, gives the order to another person, who eventually gives the order to a person who is actually going to deliver the nuclear weapon. It's probably not going to be from like some global thermonuclear warhead. It's going to most likely be from like an artillery piece or it's going to be from like a trunk-launched missile from within Ukraine. Probably would not be from a plane because they don't have complete air superiority over Ukraine, so it wouldn't make sense for them to try to use a plane. That could go very, very poorly for them. So if any single one of those people along the chain of command like basically stops it, then obviously like Putin's either going to have to deal with that person and give the order again. But at that point, you've already like reached a crisis where people are basically saying no to your orders, and that you're going to have to like make an example of them, or you're going to have to go through it with it again. And what if somebody says no again? Then it's even worse for you. And so there's a decent chance that the order won't even be followed. And it's not like this hasn't happened before in history. This has happened before.
I think once on the U.S. side and once on the Russian side, right? Am I making that up?
Yeah. There's like a very famous example during the Cuban Missile Crisis in a Russian submarine that people talk about all the time.
Well, Putin may pull an Elon Musk and fire everybody and then do everything himself.
True.
That Fiona Hill episode of Friedman, one of the other things that she talks up, and it was kind of unprompted, was this idea that she didn't phrase it this way, but basically she was making the case that when discussing Trump's impeachment hearing the first time, the Ukraine quid pro quo, she believes that you can, I think her exact words were, you can draw a straight line from that to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And she made the case that, and I'm going to ask you both about it, see what you have to say.
Just on that, just real quick, there's a story that I have up called The Untold Story of Russiagate and the Road to War in Ukraine. She might have read this exact article. It's an hour read, but I have this up that I want to listen to by Jim Rutenberg and the New York Times. She might be referring to this article, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, so that's interesting. So I want to ask you both about that because, you know, the conservative refrain is that, man, if Donald Trump had been reelected to a second term, Russia would have never invaded Ukraine because, you know, Putin was intimidated by Trump or whatever. Right. I understand. But they're pointing to the absence of an invasion during his presidency. They're like, look, you know, he invaded Crimea during Obama's presidency. Now he's invading Ukraine during Biden, and Trump was the gap year, so to speak. And she was making the case that Trump's treatment of Ukraine, you know, denying them, trying to like withhold the congressionally approved foreign aid and trying to use them as basically a surveillance tool for a political opponent, showed the world that he didn't take Ukraine or their safety seriously. And that might have inspired Putin. Like that might have entered into his calculus. Like, oh, the United States doesn't give a shit about Ukraine, even though they might say that they do. And this can be another Crimea. What do you guys think about that?
This is the main criticism I hear from a lot of people trying to analyze how we could have actually stopped this. Because a lot of people say, how could we stop this? And they're like, well, just give up all the Donbass. It's like ridiculous proposals. But this is the one that I think actually does have weight. I think, like, if you look at the Korean War, when the North Koreans, like, crossed the line into South Korea, a lot of that was caused by, like, a speech made by the Secretary of State at the time. At least this is my belief. People can disagree with me. Where he basically didn't include Korea in his big speech about, like, American interests in the regions. And it sent the message that America didn't really care that much about Korea. It wasn't a strategic priority. They cared more about Japan and possibly Taiwan and some other country. And so, therefore, they didn't care about Korea. So if we go across the line and we cross this red line here in the sand, they're probably not going to do anything. Then America obviously did do something, and we fought the whole Korean War. And I think Putin could have had it in his mind that this was somewhat like that. That, you know, America sent some aid to Ukraine, but during the Obama administration, it didn't send lethal aid. And during the Trump administration, they actually kind of slow-walked aid, even if lethal aid was kind of sent during the Trump administration. And so I think Putin might have thought that America would not be as supportive of Ukraine as they are right now. And I also think I could see it as he didn't even think this would come into calculation because Ukraine was going to collapse in 2 weeks anyway. So it doesn't matter if the West was going to send them HIMARS. Their government wouldn't even be there anyway to accept them.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Destiny, what do you think? Especially since you have that article queued up.
I want to read the article first. I'm not sure. I don't know how much that factored into everything.
Now who's Googling the answer? Giving me shit about Barstool Republicans.
Yeah, I did. True. Stay mad.
Oh, fair. All right.